Hey guys, it's David. Today I'm here with Jared, and we're going to have something a little different today. We just finished with our Arthur Staple interview, and that was a great experience. And today we don't want to do something that's what we've normally done, so we're going to shake it up a little bit. Taking a page out of the book of Dmitry Filipovich's Hockey PDO-cast, we're going to do a deep dive. But instead of deep diving a team, obviously we're going to be deep diving the Islanders, we're going to be deep diving a game that me and Jared both watched. I was at the game and Jared watched it from home. So we're just going to talk about, Barclays Center and exactly everything that I experienced and what he experienced in watching the game. And then we're going to transition into some other topics that we find interesting. So we're going to start off today by looking at each individual goal and the overall importance of the game. So first Jared, how do you feel coming into the game? How important was it for a win?
Personally, going into the game, I wasn't as focused. I was focused on getting at least 1 point, which we did. Obviously, I would have really liked to win, but nothing ever goes your way as an Islander fan. Over the years we've always sucked. But I was really hoping for a Maple Leafs loss and a Lightning loss, which both actually ended up happening. Sadly, the Maple Leafs also got a point, putting them a point ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just hoping, 1 point would have put us tied with the Leafs, so maybe it would have done something. Obviously, 2 points would have been better, but, hoping for one is at least what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I completely agree. Coming into the game, I felt like it was the most important game of the year, and I say that we've probably said that around 20 games this year, but this game, 2 points, would have kind of given us the momentum to take the 8th seed. But right now, the Leafs have the momentum. They have one more game before we play the Rangers. So hopefully they lose and the Islanders can beat the Rangers and carry some momentum on into the postseason. But 2 points would have been nice. But you're right. 1 point kept us on pace with the Maple Leafs. It got us a point ahead of the Lightning, and I really feel like that helped. So we're going to start off today by analyzing each goal and who we feel did well, and then transition into talking some of the players. So the first goal, it was scored by Travis Hamonic, and it was off a nice play by Jason Tamara. So we're going to listen up for that right now.
A bump. Beauvillier across the line. Tamara now circling the net. Up high, shot, scores. Hamonic with a drive, high stick side.
So that was the Travis Hamonic goal, and I was actually sitting above that goal, and I was really disappointed. I don't know if you guys remember, but Chimera had a very nice path to shooting it on the Columbus D. And I feel like a problem that the Islanders have a lot is not shooting it. But Chimera skated around Johnson. He had the wraparound, but he didn't take it and passed it to Hamonic, who was cutting on the right side. And he unleashed a cannon. And it was his first goal in 34 games. So I'm really happy that after having some rough times the last couple weeks coming back from an injury, that he got on the scoreboard and gave them a really important first goal a few minutes into the game. So, Jared, how do you feel about that play?
Personally, I was actually in the car at that point listening to Chris King, but he literally said it was a hammer from Hammer. Later on, I opened up the NHL app and watched the goal, and I can definitely say it was literally a hammer from Hammer. Mm-hmm. He said it was first goal in 30-something games, which was probably a very much-needed goal for him. He was injured. He's come back now. This year hasn't been his year, and I'm sure you can agree with me on that. This year's pretty much sucked compared to his other years. I'm not going to say he's a bad player because he obviously isn't. He's one of our top defenders. But I think that goal was much needed for him, and I felt it gave them a good lift to start the game, even though it didn't end in our favor.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just talking about Hamonic more, we all remember that Travis Hamonic was possibly going to be traded for Taylor Hall. And you look at Taylor Hall, he's not having the best year, but he's a superstar. And Travis Hamonic isn't a superstar. And that's a little disappointing to say, but right now, Travis Hamonic, Jack Capuano, I've been saying this for a while, I love Jack Capuano, but he was a stubborn coach. And sticking with the Hamonic-Leddy line was his worst decision of the year, and I will stand by that. That pair was the worst defensive pairing in the Eastern Conference statistically. You look at Corsi, you look at all the stats, they were the worst, and I don't know who that's on, but when you have a Boychuk and Leddy possibility, who is Boychuk's out, by the way. We're going to talk about that later. He's very important. But when you have Boychuk and Leddy, and you're sticking with Hammer and Leddy, that's tough. And Hamonic has had a tough year. He has 3 goals.
David, Boychuk and Leddy, even though they did play together this year for a quick stint, their first year here, they did play together. I don't know if you remember that, but when they played together, they weren't all that well that first year. That's why the Hamonic line with Leddy actually started.
Yeah, but I just feel like, thanks for tuning in with that, but I just feel like, I don't know, I understand Capuano's decision, but Hamonic this year has not played well, and he hasn't contributed offensively. He hasn't used that shot. Hamonic doesn't have a shot like Boychuk, but it's close. That shot was from the right point, snipe top left corner, and he doesn't use his shot as much as I would like to see. He's just, right now, he's a very fairly priced second defenseman. I feel like Jack Capuano wanted him to be a first pair defenseman, which is something that maybe he'll never be. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to live with him, and when he contributes, it's great. His goal was amazing, and I feel like, you get what you get with him, and I really like him with Dahan. Dahan's been playing well, too.
Completely agree about Dahan. Dahan's probably having one of his best years of hockey, and it's really sad to think that at the end of this year, he could be a Vegas Golden Knight, which, I'm obviously praying won't happen, but it is very, very possible that he could be leaving us after this year. It's sad to think that because, I love Calvin Dahan, same with Thomas Hickey. Thomas Hickey could also be leaving, and both of them, I like them very much, even though both of them have their stints where they just completely suck.
Disappointing, yeah.
I remember blaming games on both of them, but, they've stepped it up in the last year and a half. Hickey was the one who clinched the playoffs for us last year and got that Game 3 winning goal. And then you have Dahan, who this year has been playing out of his mind, and it's just sad to think that he might not be an Islander at the end of this summer.
I'm disappointed too. Honestly, he's a very good player. I think the Vegas GM is going to see that. He was McPhee was a old executive, and I think, unfortunately, he will, good chance he'll be claimed. So, all in all, good to get a goal from the D, and right now we're going to talk about the next goal, speaking of defense. We don't have a video for that just because we're only going to hear some highlights from the Islanders' goals. But on this play, you had Dennis Seidenberg skating with the puck, and I'm sure I was there. This was by far my nightmare of the game. You had Dennis Seidenberg skating with the puck, and he tried to juke out Alexander Wenberg at their blue line, and he fell. And the issue was, instead of getting up, I actually played hockey 2 days ago, and I'm not very good, and getting up is really hard. You play hockey too, and I understand getting up fast, I think, is hard. I know you're better at hockey than me, but he didn't get up, and he tried to kind of dive at it with his stick on the ground. You had a Columbus player come up and get it, and he sniped a goal home on Leddy and Seidenberg, who are not paired together, but they was in the middle of a change. And honestly, we can transition to talking about Dennis Seidenberg here, because I feel like this goal really showed a bad trend that I do not like that has been shown recently, and that is the play of Dennis Seidenberg. Dennis Seidenberg is an amazing veteran who has come in and given the Islanders all they can ask. But unfortunately, after his injury to his jaw, I don't think he's been a player that we want in the lineup. I think that he's been solid as a third pair defenseman, and by solid I mean okay. But I don't know, Jared, what do you feel? How do you feel about his play?
The beginning of the season, I said this guy is old, but he's good. What do you have, like 4 goals in the first few games of the season? It was insane, but my biggest thing now is that, his play has declined, like you said, David, since his broken jaw. And it's been an issue, Having that broken jaw really turned his play down, Breaking anything turns your play down, I got a concussion a few years ago personally, and it really turned my play down. And injuries like that, like big injuries that keep you out for a while, are really going to slow you down, and they take a while to get back from. And, I don't think that Suzuki is fully back from his injury yet. I think that they want to play because they want to play, but, that's just how it works. You play because you want to play. Yeah, obviously, I'm sure they've been cleared, but just based on the player's point of view and how they feel. On the note of Seidenberg's performance in the last game, I'm absolutely astonished. It might have been one of the worst games I've ever seen a defender play in this league.
Wow.
Without doubt.
That's a bold statement, and honestly...
And that's coming from an ex-Thrasher fan who had Ron Hainsey on their team when he was terrible. I mean...
That's a bold statement, and that's a hot take, but honestly, I was very disappointed with Dennis Seidenberg when I was walking out of the Barclays Center. I mean, that play where, obviously being there and seeing it live slows it down, in my opinion, but it felt like he was laying on the ice for 20 seconds, and obviously it was only 2 or 3, but I feel like he could have gotten that out of the zone. I'm going to be honest, I think if he got up, I know I can't get up when I'm skating, but I'm sure Dennis Seidenberg can, and if he could have gotten up and cleared it, even if he takes an icing, that goal won't happen, and honestly, I don't want to say lack of effort, but there was nothing Greiss can do there, and I think that goal has to be blamed on Dennis Seidenberg.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. You know, you players have a stick for a reason. You know, he fell. He had the puck still in his arm span. He could have at least hit the puck away. I mean, he didn't even aim for that. I mean, that's my first instinct. If I fall with the puck personally, I'm going to aim to get that puck away from the player who's near me. I'm just amazed they didn't even try that. Coming from a defender as well, he didn't do that.
I think we're going to scrap that. I didn't like your last line.
Bad.
Okay, so I said, hey, Spencer, we're going to scrap this. I said there was an awkward pause. I don't remember saying anything, but you can go on to saying how I agree Greiss couldn't have done anything, and I think Greiss, up until this point, played a very good game, okay? You want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to give you the finger. Start talking about, you're going to say, you mentioned Thomas Greiss. I agree.
Yeah, I'll pick it up when you're done.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
You know, you just mentioned Thomas Greiss, and Thomas Greiss up to that point was having a stellar performance. You know, I've seen good games out of him, I've seen bad games, and this game was a needed good game, and that was a very big turning point once he dropped that puck. I mean, Thomas Greiss played stellar. He finished the game good too. It just, that one goal in a game can ruin a goalie's momentum, and that's not what I'm saying it did there. But it changed his mindset definitely from, damn, I'm doing great, to shit, I just let in a goal. It changes mindsets letting in those goals. I mean, that was a shit. Retake that. Retake.
Come on, dude. All right, we're restarting again. I really like what you said about damn, because I have the video up, and he literally, after winning in, his facial expression was crap. Like, he had a very visible facial expression. So repeat what you said and just say, you know, speaking of Thomas Greiss, say, how do you feel about you? Okay, so here's what you're going to say, quote. Speaking of Thomas Greiss, how do you feel with how he played? Because up until that, I felt he was doing good. Very short, okay?
Me? I'm saying that?
Yeah.
Speaking of Thomas Greiss, now, how did you feel up until that point? Because I felt he was doing great.
You know, that's a good question, and I wanted to talk about him. And honestly, up until that point, he made some big saves. I mean, Columbus was out-shooting the Islanders after the first period by a lot, and they were out-shooting them the whole game. So I really think that Thomas Greiss helped them stay in this game and get a necessary point. And obviously, we'll talk about overtime later, but I feel like how he played the game really gave him the Islanders a chance to win, which is something he hasn't done this year. He has not given the Islanders a chance to win every night. He's given up, 4 goals a lot, and today, when in this Columbus game, I really like how he played, even though this goal that he gave up off Seidenberg's error was a very interesting goal, because I have the video up right now. I'm not going to play the audio because it won't really help in this scenario, but Thomas Greiss let it in. It was his glove side. The Columbus player came skating down the ice, and he sniped it over Thomas Greiss's glove. And Thomas Greiss gave a very distinct curse after the goal, which is interesting because I don't think it was his fault, that goal. So I really think he was into the game, happy he was playing well, and very disappointed to give up a goal when he really felt that I feel like he felt he was let down by his team in that moment because he was very angry. So it was either he felt he gave up a bad goal, which I don't think he did, or he felt he was let down by his team. So with that, we're going to go on to the next Columbus goal, which, to be honest, was probably a defensive breakdown for the Islanders. So I'm going to play it right now. We have Nick Foligno skating down the ice, and you had Scott Mayfield and again Dennis Seidenberg, who left his man open, and Brandon Dubinsky came skating down the... Not Brandon Dubinsky, sorry. Restart. We are restarting that. Shit.
Oh, you can do what you're going to do. That's starting with you recording. I just made the playoffs, so...
I forget where I was. I talked about Grice, and then I say, and I want to transition on to the next goal.
Let's just scrap the whole Grice-Seidenberg thing. Let's just move on to Barclays.
Well, we got to talk about the rest of the game.
Just go on to the next goal.
All right. Sorry,
Spencer, I know you're listening. We're going on to the next goal. You probably have 15 minutes to scrap here, so just...
Yeah, we're about 5 minutes to scrap. It's your choice if you want to keep the Grice thing in. So I'm going to go on to the next goal. Who the hell scored? Hold on.
I honestly don't know.
Anderson's fourth goal against the Islanders this season.
What's up on your phone?
Anderson. Okay. All right, I'm starting Spencer. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. And right now we're going to go on to our next goal, which again was a defensive breakdown by Dennis Seidenberg, unfortunately. So you had Nick Foligno skating down the ice, and he was skating on the right side, and he passed it in front to an unmanned Anderson. And here's the issue I have with that. You had Scott Mayfield, Dennis Seidenberg, Cal Clutterbuck in the area of Nick Foligno skating down the ice, and no one caught the man. You need to make sure that in these tight 1-1 games that you cover your man. You need to get a body on someone. And when we're looking at games deeply like this, I know you can't nitpick every single mistake, but this mistake was especially prevalent because it gave up a goal in an important time, and again, it was Dennis Seidenberg. So, Jared, how do you feel about this goal?
Personally, it's another play by Seidenberg that just ruins momentum. I mean, he's really got to look at what he's doing. You always look before you pass. Sorry. And the one thing you do is never pass the middle of the ice. And,
No, Jared. No, Columbus.
Did he pass the middle?
No, Columbus passed the middle.
What goal are we talking about?
The second one.
John Tavares?
No, we're talking about Anderson.
Who? I thought you just said... I gotta watch it. 1 second.
Wow, Spencer's gonna have some, tough...
He's gonna fucking kill us.
Dude, you gotta watch these. This was Anderson when Foligno skated down the ice and passed it out in front, and Anderson put it in.
Oh, I know what I'm gonna say. 3, 2, 1.
And this was about focus on Seidenberg, and don't trash Seidenberg, okay? You're trashing
No,
Seidenberg.
I'm gonna focus on Mayfield on this goal.
All right, don't trash anyone, okay? Just be very neutral. All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1.
This goal was a little iffy. Players weren't in position. They weren't in position. Seidenberg went out from in front of the net to try to stop that pass. Didn't really stop it that much, but I feel you can blame that goal more on Mayfield than you can Seidenberg. If one defenseman moves off the net, out of position, it's up to the other defenseman to maintain their position. And, Mayfield was that other defender, and he's got to be in position. If he's not in position, it's a big deal. I mean, you have 3 players there, and I can honestly say that it was all blamed on 3 of them that puck went in. You have 3 players should be on the player with the puck. And while it's in front of the net, it's as easy as that.
Yeah, and I was actually, I forgot to mention this, Cizikas was actually trailing Anderson, and I don't want to call him lazy, but, he wasn't back-checking as well as he should have, so all in all, a defensive breakdown, which we haven't seen a lot under Doug Weight, which I really like. I feel like this type of goal where the whole team was just not putting in an effort that they need to happened a lot more under Jack Capuano and not under Doug Weight. So I got to say, just a little brief topic about Doug Weight. Doug Weight makes them play hard, as Capuano always used to say, play hard. But Doug Weight really brings the best out of them, and, players are going to make mistakes. I feel like this was a mistake, and again, they let Thomas Greiss out to dry.
I mean, you're talking about Doug Weight, I'm one of those fans, call me stupid, call me whatever you want. I think they should just place Doug Weight in the coaching position. I mean, look at the change in the team when he came in. It was a massive difference between what they were doing. Now, look, obviously, it wasn't amazing that we had to fire our coach halfway through the season. But, once Doug Waite came in, he really set the tone, He came in and said, we're not going to mess around. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And he really said it hard because, when they mess up, he skates them. I mean, I remember reading tweets saying, Islanders skated 15 minutes after practice. That was after the 7-0 loss to Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't stand for any of that stuff. Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. I mean, after that, we talked about this on the podcast before, and I found out that Grice actually skated too, which is something that I found really interesting. So, Doug Waite, as you were saying, huge. All right, we're restarting again.
Yeah. You said something, and I was like, what?
Yeah. I don't even know where
we'll
you were.
We'll just pick up from where you left off, and I'll come in.
You were talking about Waite. You were talking about Waite. Say something about Waite.
Okay.
3. Dude, I think you should put the Xbox down. You've made a lot of mistakes.
It's going away. Let's go.
I think you're distracted. 3, 2, 1.
As you were saying, you were talking about Doug Waite. Doug Waite is that coach who doesn't stand for any mess-ups. Doug Waite skated this team after that 7-0 loss to Columbus like he meant it. I mean, I feel personally he's the coach to go into a locker room after the first period, to let in 3 goals, you're down 3-0, to scream at that team. And that's something that Cappy would never do. Cappy was like, oh, it's okay. We're still in this game. It's only 3-0 after the first period. And that's not something a coach should do. A coach should go in there, set the tone, make sure they understand what's going to happen, and that they need to get it done.
I completely agree. Doug Waite has been what this team needed. I actually, and I know you agree with this too, I'd like to see Doug Waite as our permanent coach. Maybe Gallant would be an okay fill-in, but I feel like what they have has worked. Their record is doing very well right now. They're in the 8th seed, as we talked about, almost in the 8th seed, sorry, not at this moment. And Doug Waite has put them in a position to win with his coaching adjustments, and the new style of play that the Islanders are playing is much more gritty, it's much more effective, and I think it's really helped the team win games. So with that, we're going to move on to the next Islanders goal. And I was sitting up top again, and this was after 5 minutes of constant pressure. It was the loudest. I go to 1 Barclays game a year, so I've been to 2, and I've been to some Devils games, but this was the loudest I've ever heard a hockey rink. It was so loud. The Islanders had so many shots. I think they almost hit a post. The Columbus goalie had amazing saves, and this shot from the point that Tavares had almost felt like a crazy just getting a shot on goal, but there was a screen and it went through, so we're going to listen to it now.
Jenner not giving up on it at all. Tavares cross ice. Handed back to Tavares. Almost walked it out of the zone. Shot from a distance and scores. Corpusalo screened in front. All kinds of bodies there. And Tavares from just inside the blue line. He almost walked out. And Johnny.
So that was the goal, and that was probably my best memory at Barclays Center. That was such a fun goal. I mean, it was a comeback goal. Tavares, it felt like he was coming out of the, as the announcer said 3 times, it felt like he was out of the blue line from my angle. I mean, it felt like he was just keeping it in the zone, and he got an amazing shot thanks to a screen. And something to keep in mind, Dennis Seidenberg with the assist on that goal.
So, I'll never forget that goal. That goal was just, Tavares is just an incredible player, and that goal was just an incredible goal. You take those shots, is it going to go in, is it not going to go in? Like you were saying, they had a million shots on goal. They had ones going off the post, and Corpusalo was making great saves. But the one thing I can say is the Islanders were putting on constant pressure, and that's what you have to do in a situation when you're down like this. Constant pressure is key to scoring goals. No matter what happens, you take shots, you get goals. That is a saying throughout hockey, no matter what. You shoot, you score. That is the key.
And in this moment, it was executed to perfection. Tavares, I feel like he passes too much, and in this moment, there were men semi-open to a pass that, there were some passes that Tavares makes on a regular basis. There was Bailey out in front, he could have tried. Ladd was out in front. He could have tried to pass out to the middle, but instead he got a shot off. And that's really what I like to see from him. Just knowing that Tavares is a player who, can be passive, as I've said. He needs to be more aggressive if the Islanders want to make the playoffs. He needs to, honestly, you look at stars from other teams, you see Sidney Crosby, he's taking 5 shots a game. I feel like Tavares, sometimes, you look at the score sheet, he's only taken a few shots, and with his shot, he was the most accurate shooter a few years ago. With his shot, he is a player who needs to be shooting as much as he can, and that's something I'd look for him to do more as the season concludes. So we're going to move on to our overtime goal now, and this was a letdown. It felt like they were doing so well, and then this goal comes along, and it really hurt. It was a tough loss. So right now I'm going to play the highlights, and we'll listen in.
Denied entry, Dubinsky aggressively pursued that puck with Atkinson now. Atkinson drops it back. Werenski looks, finds Dubinsky. Dubinsky behind the net. In front of Atkinson. He shoots and scores! Jackets win in overtime. 30.
So that was the Columbus overtime winner. And again, just like all 3 goals this game, it was a defensive breakdown. How'd you feel about that goal, Jared?
You could say it's a defensive breakdown, but Grice was definitely in position, but he didn't have enough time to set up. I feel that defender who was in front of the net, I really don't remember who it was, but whoever that defender that was next to Grice when he was down, should have had that puck sweeped out right away. That was an awful defensive play from that point of view. If you have a puck sitting there, you sweep it away. I've seen them do it before. I just don't get why they didn't do it there when they saw a goal coming. I saw that play go into the zone, and I said, this is it. We're going to lose right here. Something's going to happen, and we're going to lose.
Yep, and I agree. The Islanders, that was Calvin DeHaan, who we've already applauded this year in this podcast for his efforts this year. But he had a breakdown. It was kind of chaos back there. It felt like, as you said, as soon as they went into the zone, the Islanders looked like they were getting in some trouble. They were just getting shots off. Grice was spinning around. Grice was on his feet, trying to dive around. So that play was, again, a defensive breakdown. And I'm just going to talk about one quick topic, and then we're going to move on to the Barclays Center. My issue with that play is the Islanders' overtime record. The Islanders have lost over 60% of their overtime games this year. I don't know the exact number, but it's around, I think they might be at 0.3, their statistics. I think I want to say 4-10 or something. They're doing very bad. It's very bad. I have the stats up from a few weeks ago, and I think they were 3-10 at one point, which is just, it's terrible. We are in a battle with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and imagine if we had 4 more points. Just imagine that. That'd be amazing. And right now, unfortunately, you have the Islanders in the 9 spot, and that's probably because they can't win overtime games. So, Jared, I don't know if you want to add a closing point about how the Islanders have had woes in overtime and shootout, and then we'll go on to Barclays Center.
You said it perfectly. I have nothing to say. I was really upset after that goal went in, and that's just about all I have to say. Their overtime play sucks. If they're going to play 3-on-3, they got to put Tavares out there with 2 solid D because we're getting no offensive generation.
That is an amazing point because, honestly, Tavares has had some good goals. The Hossein goal, I don't know if that's scored with 2D, but Tavares, I don't want to say he's a liability, but, that goal happened. Tavares was off the ice for 3 seconds before he skated in. He just took a change, and honestly, Tavares is a very shaky player in overtime, and I feel like when 3-on-3 overtime started, for some reason, teams started with 2D and 1 forward, and that's just how it was, but then for some reason, teams went to 2 forward and 1D, and that's how it's been. Every team. There's not one team that does 2D. I don't think so. And
you have to go back to it.
I think the Islanders would be very well with 2D. I agree. I think it would help with these defensive breakdowns that the Islanders have in overtime. And shots from the point in overtime, not a bad thing. You get a forward out in front. I think the Islanders need to go back to more of a defensive approach in overtime. So with that, I think we're going to end our talk on the game. I really like how we dove deeply into this. And now we're going to transition into my experience at the Barclays Center. your past experiences at Nassau Coliseum, and some interesting news that came out yesterday about the stadium. So I'm just going to tell you the news. Arthur Staple came onto the podcast last week and said that the Islanders would be in Brooklyn longer than we think. There's a reported thing that the Islanders would be kicked out of Barclays Center in 2 years. And honestly, when I first heard it, I believed it. But Arthur Staple was quick to say that's not happening because if it's impossible to build an arena in 2 years, and SNY confirmed this thought that Staple had in our podcast. They said that they're going to be renegotiating a deal, which I assume will keep the Islanders in Brooklyn for longer while the Islanders can get their stadium situation worked out. So what are your opinions on that, Jared?
You know, I'm avidly anti-Barclays Center, and I've said it before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. It sucks. You know, the train ride's annoying, and if you want to go to a game, you have to do it, or else you're going to sit in, like, over an hour of traffic. And it absolutely sucks. I mean, you're coming from 2+ hours away, which is worse. I mean, you only get to go to one game a year, and I enjoy games, you enjoy games, but you don't get the same atmosphere as you did in the Nassau Coliseum. I mean, you want to explain what your experience at Barclays Center is like, David?
Yeah, so I have some fun stories I want to talk to you guys about, but I went to a game at the Islanders at the Barclays Center. It was Islanders Hurricanes, and I was hooked up with free tickets from an old friend, and they were right behind the Islanders' goals. They were 5 rows back, and they were amazing seats. I mean, it was amazing. I felt like royalty sitting behind the ice. I don't know if you guys remember that game, but it was very similar to the Columbus game I was at. You had the Islanders were down 1-0 in the third. You got a shot from the point, and it went in. I think Leddy scored. It may have been Lee tipping it in. I don't recall. And then the Islanders got a goal in the shootout from Kyle Oposo. Unfortunately, we can't do anything in the shootout this year, but it was nice when we had Oposo to win some shootout games for us. And the Islanders got a big win. And I really loved that experience, but this year I found something very interesting about Barclays Center. I sat up top in the nosebleeds because it was a little more expensive for an afternoon game, and there were no escalators downstairs. I felt like I was trapped up there, and this is an amazing story, this is hilarious. So there's one elevator and 2 stairwells, right? And that's how you get down. And it feels like you're trapped because I was completely lost and I had no idea how to get downstairs. So I open one of these stairwells and I thought there's 2 levels to the Barclays Center, up and top. So I walk down a level, open the door, and right there is John Ledecky and Clark Gillies in their suite. I'm like, what the heck? I thought I was going downstairs and I'm in the owner's suite. So there's some people around there. And this is direct access, no security guards, no nothing, from the upper deck. And I walk in, I caught a puck at warm-ups, and I say, hey, Mr. Gillies, could you please sign this? He goes, sure, like I was supposed to be there. I get an autograph. I say hi to Ledecky. I really wanted to ask him for a pin, but I felt like that would be pushy. And I said hi to him, and I went back to my seat with Clark Gillies' puck. And I also got a picture with Shannon, which was nice. But, that was me trying to navigate my way through the Barclays Center at the intermission. I wandered upon the owner's suite. So my issue with Barclays Center in that case is I love it. I know Jared doesn't because I haven't been to the Coliseum. And I just feel like Barclays Center it's a nice atmosphere when you're there, but it's not for hockey. And I don't know if you want to comment on that, Jared.
I am going to comment on that. I've been to many arenas. I've been to Panthers Arena. I've been to the Nashville Arena. I've been to Phillips Arena when there was hockey here. I've been to First Niagara Center. I've been to
Coliseum and Barclays.
The Air Canada Center, Barclays Center, Nassau Coliseum. I'm going to say the best fans are definitely in the Air Canada Center because even when the Maple Leafs are losing 6-3, or whatever the score is, they're dedicated fans. That arena is built so much better than Barclays Center because it's built for hockey. Same thing with the Coliseum. The Coliseum was built for hockey. I mean, I'll talk about the Coliseum in a few minutes, but let me just say, the Barclays Center is meant for basketball. The Islanders played an incredibly long road trip because of basketball, because that's their main focus at the Barclays Center, and it's ridiculous that they're going to be the host to an NHL team, and they're going to kick them out for 3 weeks because they have to have a basketball tournament.
Oh, dude, it was the circus and the basketball tournament. But, Yeah, honestly, I'm disappointed with Barclays, as many people are. I had a pretty good experience. I won't lie. They had $10 player shirts. I got Clark Gillies' autograph and met the owner. And, my seats were okay. But the issue I have is just I feel like the Islanders aren't wanted. And with that, I'm going to transition into, the news and how the Islanders are staying in Barclays Center most likely for a little longer than we thought. And this is good news because the alternative was moving to Connecticut for a few years, but Arthur Staples shot down that idea and said that it wasn't happening. So I believe him. I don't think we're going to Connecticut or Quebec or Kansas City, but I really feel like we're staying at Barclays longer than we thought, and that's a good thing. Fans have been angry, but you got to realize there were 4 arenas. You got MSG, you've got the Coliseum, you've got Barclays, you've got I don't know if you want to help me out. You got Niagara, you've got college basketball. You've got the Prudential Center in the area. There are a lot of arenas in New York. It's a big market, and honestly, I don't know if there should be another one in Queens, but I have trust in Ledecky that he will work that out, and I'm hoping the Islanders are playing in Queens in the next few years. But by next few years, I mean more like 5. It's going to take a while to build an arena, and honestly, we're going to have to stay in Barclays for longer than we think if we want our ultimate goal, which is a new arena in either Queens or Long Island, but I don't know if the Coliseum's going to work out.
As an Islander fan, obviously I hope the Coliseum would work out, but it's never going to happen. Never. I'm sorry to let all you fans down, but it's just probably not going to happen. And, you guys all say you hate the Barclays Center. I do too. But there's one thing we got to realize. I had this conversation with my father the other day. Queens is another far drive, just like the Barclays Center is. You're taking the train again. It's obviously not as long, but, you say you're going to get a fan base in Queens, but, again, you're traveling immense amount of time in a car because of traffic, or you're going to take the train, and it's obviously going to be shorter than it is to the Barclays Center, but it's still going to be a decent ride. I mean, for all you guys who go to Citi Field, it's going to be going like you're going there, and that's obviously easy, but driving there is going to be an issue. You have so much traffic, you're going to have to leave an hour and a half early. David, what are your opinions on that?
I'm in New Jersey, so that would be a little further for me, but honestly, we can't get picky here. Queens is better than Quebec. It's better than wherever the heck we're going next. So I think if we're not staying in Barclays, we're going to have to accept Queens. And honestly, I just want to conclude with this. Islander fans have been, I'm not going to say discriminated against, because I did a research project on that, and that's a pretty deep word. But I'm going to say treated unfairly, even though discriminated is, it's bordering. But the Islander fans have been treated unfairly for years since the dynasty years. We have been the 3rd team looked upon in the area. We just got passed up on for the Winter Classic between the Islanders and the Rangers for Sabres at Rangers. I mean, what the heck was that? That made me so angry when I saw that. You're thinking about the Islanders and Rangers at the stadium that's potentially a few hundred yards across from the Islanders' next arena, and instead we got the Sabres, who are not a good hockey team, playing in that game. That was appalling. That just showed again that Gary Bettman, I think he's an Islander fan. I don't know if I feel like I've seen him at a lot of games. I want to say he's a Islander supporter at least, or he was when he was a kid. But that's just a stab in the back to all Islander fans. And it really is tough. We've been treated so unfairly for years, and, we just got to take what we can get. We're not going back to the Coliseum, so, whatever happens, it's better than Connecticut or Quebec. So, Jared, how do you feel about that?
I'm absolutely appalled that the NHL would treat us so unfairly by having the Sabres play in Citi Field in the Winter Classic with the Rangers. I don't care that it's the location. I don't care that the Rangers are playing, but because the Rangers are obviously a team that's going to make money. But put them against the Islanders, or put them against the Penguins, or put them against the Flyers, or put them against the Devils, another team that's closer, that has more of a fan base where you're going. I'm very annoyed that they're putting two teams who've already played a Winter Classic in the Winter Classic. Yes, the Islanders have played an outdoor game, and yes, you can say my team has played an outdoor game. But to say your team played in the Winter Classic is a completely different thing than saying your team played in a Stadium Series game. Ooh, the Stadium Series. I'm not going to lie, it was very cool. I didn't go I wanted to. Very cool experience to see on TV. But my biggest issue is that both of these teams have played. And yes, I did say the Penguins and the Flyers, who have both been in Winter Classics before. But having two teams that have already played in one just annoys the living hell out of me. Put teams in it who have not been in it. Pull up Florida. Put Florida against the Rangers. Pull someone who hasn't played in it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Florida, but I'll take a Florida team. I'm not. I mean, you look at a rivalry. I understand, but if I'm just I'm so angry that the Islanders weren't chosen, and I feel like Arthur Staple, on his Twitter, he didn't show too much anger, but one person who did was a writer, Aiden, for the site. Aiden writes a lot of good articles for us, and I want to read a quote that is in his article. He wrote, "It's a sad reality, but it's one that us fans have lived with before and will have to live with again. And it's probably going to happen a lot of times too." So when you see that, you just think the Islanders are going to keep getting crapped on by the NHL. It's going to keep happening, and there's nothing we can do about it except go to games, go to the Barclays Center, and just show that we are a fan base that cares about this team, not just when they're good, but we are all for Islanders. That's their saying, but we are just supportive of this team no matter what. And honestly, I feel like if we get the attendance up, maybe we wouldn't have been, disrespected like that for the Sabres. But, all in all, it was a sad day for Islander fans, but it's one that we've been used to. So, Jared, I'm just going to go to you for one more closing point, and then we're going to talk about the site and then end it there.
Two little things. One, you said something about attendance. We have one of the worst attendance in the NHL, and that's due to the fact that we're playing in Brooklyn. When your fan base is in Nassau, Suffolk, it's an issue to have a stadium there, yes, but you did say it correctly. We need to show support in our team. And another thing is, a lot of you guys remember playing in the Nassau Coliseum, and I love the Coliseum. I went to the last regular season game in the Coliseum, and I cried. I went with 6 guys in my family, my dad, my uncle, me, my 2 little cousins, and my grandpa. You had a line of people crying in the last regular season game. It was upsetting. That stadium had so much in it. So much in it. You had 4 Stanley Cups there. You had a team play there for over 40 years. That stadium was built for hockey, and you're not going to get a stadium like that again. And it sucks that it is that way, but that's just how it has to be.
Yeah, and that's a very good closing point for, a lot of fans to, think upon because, Nassau Coliseum, I think I don't know. I think we're going to have to, put that thought to rest, and that's sad. I've never been to the Coliseum, but I've heard a lot of stories about it, and I'm just, it's very disappointing. So, just want to talk about the site for a little bit. We had a little bit of a mess up on the account, and I just want to say, that was a joke, and it won't happen again. We're going to strictly, we're going to try to tone it down with the jokes, and we're going to keep the All Islanders 2 account and the All Islanders account. We're going to keep that very news-related, very factual, and no more jokes, except maybe on April Fools, but I don't know. But about the site, we have a lot of good articles.
Start that over and do not mention April Fools, because we're doing something on April Fools.
I wanted to say something, but I didn't. That came out very wrong. Sorry. I'm not even going to say anything, actually. But I feel like the active listeners who listened this far into the podcast should know about it. So what should I say?
Talk about Censor, by the way. I'm sorry again that we're doing shit like this to you.
Well,
but
he better listen. We could say some
stuff.
bad stuff.
This has been, I think, an okay podcast.
I think it's been good. I really like it, honestly.
I've been doing really bad. Be honest.
Yeah, because you've been on your freaking Xbox the whole time. That's what I told you. But
I'm doing okay, not terrible.
Whatever. But I like it's a new look. But I'm gonna say
maybe you start with New goal templates coming up soon. Keep out for some game day articles. We'd love to see if anyone would love to become a writer.
Oh, okay, good.
Talk about the joke. Be like, we're sorry for it. We just thought it was kind of funny. And yeah, go from there.
All right, great, thank you. Yeah, but it's the Xbox, dude. I'm telling you, no more Xbox when we're doing this. But I'm starting.
I promise.
3, 2, 1. So I just want to quickly bring up the site. We have some new goal templates coming up. Hopefully, we have a lot of game day articles coming out as the season comes to a close. And I just want to say we are looking for writers. I know a lot of people have shown interest. So all you got to do is DM either of the accounts on Instagram, All Islanders or All Islanders 2. Preferably All Islanders 2 because that's the account of the website. But if you DM us and you just, we're going to ask you a few questions, there's a very good chance that you'll become a writer, and we really appreciate, having fans get their opinions out, and that's something we really like to have. And speaking of the second account, we had a little bit of a mix-up on it a few days ago with a post of fake news. We should have waited until April Fool's, but unfortunately, we made a mistake, and from now on both the accounts, there will only be real news posted. So, Jared, I'm going to go to you. Thanks for doing this game analysis and talk about the Barclays with me, and you can say goodbye and close it off.
So on that note, I'd like to say one more thing. Thank you guys for your the loyal listeners who make it all the way through these podcasts. We put time and effort into these, and it just makes us happy to see that we get a lot of views. The last podcast did incredible with Staple, and we hope they can do that again. So, thanks.
Yeah, amen. So, thanks for sticking with us, and we'll talk to you guys soon for the next episode. Thanks, guys.